Welcome to the T-Squared Dad's Brown Bag Podcast. Here's your hosts, Kyle Baker and Dieter Burrell.
Dano!
Bo, what's going on, brother?
It felt like it was just yesterday that we talked.
Yeah, it was only about 4 days ago.
Oh, man, you hit some amazing topics when I was listening to the recording, and I know that this one's going to be sounding so much better for everybody that's listening.
I hope this mic is working well.
It sounds awesome. As you can see, you know what? Let me do one little thing here. I'm going to turn my AC unit off.
Okay, no problem.
All right, there we go. Turn that AC unit off. Make sure there's no background noise. Anyways, you hit on some amazing topics, even though we kind of rushed through it all. I know, on our previous podcast, we talked about college and then, what happened after college, your licensing, and then, kind of going in and working in the field for some amount of time. I know we didn't talk about that. That's sort of what I want to kind of get you to tell us a little bit about. Okay, so we went to the University of Florida. We attended there, 2.5 years, and then you went back to Connecticut. So this is where the story kind of starts getting interesting. Tell me a little bit about what happened.
Okay. So, well, before I met you, I got my bachelor's from University of Florida, the Bachelor of Design. It's a weird name for it, but Bachelor of Design. And I worked for a firm called Centerbrook Architects. It's a pretty prestigious firm in Connecticut, Centerbrook. It was started by Charles Moore. Now, Charles Moore used to kind of go around and sort of, open these little firms everywhere in the United States. And, he had his group of architects that he wanted to run them. In this case, Centerbrook was basically run by all Yale grads. And so that's where I worked. And I thought after I'd get out with my master's, so I met you, we went to school. I thought when I got out, I'd work there again. And they told me that, they said, well, Dan, we really liked you when you were here, but we don't have any work right now. And I was surprised to hear that because they won the AIA Firm of the Year in, I think, 1998. So now this is 2002. And they just said they didn't work. Well, I ended up working for another company, small firm in New Haven, Connecticut. And then I got a call from a representative from Centerbrook, just checking in on me and seeing if I found work. And I did. And it sounded like they were interested in having me come back, but I already found work. And so I started working for this company, who is... he is now the person who ran the company. He is now the chief architect of the state of Connecticut. So he closed his firm. But from there, I went to another firm called Tai-Soo Kim Partners, another well-known, renowned firm in Connecticut. They used to be called like the Hartford Design Group, but they're Tai-Soo Kim Partners, and now they're TSKP Partners because Mr. Kim, Tai-Soo Kim, when I was there, we had his 70th birthday party. That was wow. It was almost, when was that? 2005, 6. Anyway, so I worked for him. Then I ended up going to JCJ Architecture. Now that JCJ is really where I sort of became an architect. All my previous firms, I worked for, Centerbrook between degrees, Barkin Associates in New Haven, a small firm, just kind of doing similar stuff that I do right now. And then Tai-Soo Kim Partners was mostly schools. But when I really felt like an adult was once I got to JCJ, and that was 2007. Wow. 2007, so we graduated in 2002. So, took me a good 5 years of sort of working, not counting experience before my master's. It took me about 5 years to feel like an adult.
Right.
Prior to that, I felt like an intern the whole time. It's the first time that I think that the principals at JCJ really looked at me as a main contributor.
Was it right when you got licensed that they looked at you that way, or was it before you got licensed?
I got licensed in 2006. So I got licensed, 4 years after we graduated. But I was at Tai-Soo Kim Partners at the time. But here's the problem. And for anyone listening, going into a firm without your license it sort of puts you at a disadvantage when you get that license. Maybe that's not the case today, but back then it's hard to break that sort of intern architect, or I think the AIA got removed the word intern. Apparently,
Right.
you can't say intern anymore. I don't know why. So graduate architect, let's call it. It's hard to remove that tag, even when you get licensed. So sometimes the best thing to do is, if you're at a firm, you get licensed, but you're not feeling the respect, it's time to move on. It really is.
It's really true what you said, because once I got licensed at the firm that I was at, and I sat down with them and I said they were gonna sit down, and they told me, it's like, hey, we're gonna look at your yearly salary, and we're going to increase it. That didn't mean anything to me. I was thinking, great, because I'm hearing other stories from other people. So I get licensed, and I had a meeting maybe a month after I got licensed, and they put down on the table $4,000 more a year, and it kind of shocked me. And I'm thinking, I'm already kind of managing projects. It took me a while to get licensed. I'm already managing projects, so you put an architect to supervise me that's an absentee architect. He's not doing anything. You have me doing everything, and he's not checking my work. He says he's checking my work, and then I go back in there and I have to check my own work because he's not doing it. So I felt like it was a slap in the face when they told me, $4,000 more a year. So best solution was to move on, to move somewhere else. And that's how I got a raise. And people ask me, it's like, should I stay? No, don't stay.
Right. That happened to me too. And it wasn't that. So Taisu Kim Partners was a great firm to work for. I thought I was going to stay there. There was an issue there as well. It wasn't just that when I got licensed, I didn't see the bump of pay that I thought I'd get. Because it was less about pay for me. They are a great firm, and I really like everyone there. I still like them now. I'm friends with many of them. The issue was, it was a smaller firm as well. That's just the other thing people have to think about. So there's pay, but then there's who's in front of you. And there was a person that was in front of me that was at my same level. She might have graduated a year earlier than I did, or a year later than I did, but we were at the same level. But she was there before me. And now I come in, and she's a very capable architect. She's a very kind of well-rounded, great detailer, great manager. And we're at the same level, but I came in after her. And if the size of firm we were in, there's no way for me to go up. I sort of was stuck anyway. Mm-hmm. So that's why the pay for them probably was indicative of the situation I was in. And so I had to evaluate that. And I have no ill will toward her. She's a capable architect and one of my very good friends. It's just that I recognize who's there. You can't just start stabbing people in the back to climb the ladder like some people do. You just say, well, it's time for me to move on. It's time for me to find my place. That was her place, and it was time for me to find my place.
Yeah, there was a couple of cases, and I shared this with there was another intern architect there. Once I got licensed, he was getting his testing done and his IDP completed. And I remember there was this one incident. I'm not going to name companies, and I'm sure that if they listen, they take it to heart. There was a program that they were trying to implement, that they were going to make it like a profit sharing, or almost like a partial owners of the company. And they had invited all these folks from the office, but yet there was a few of us. There was an older lady that worked there, and then it was me and this gentleman. We were both Spanish, and I was thinking, there's something really odd about the fact that the two only Spanish-speaking people in the office are now being invited to this. And then this lady, and then I later found out, from not directly from the people in charge, but indirectly, that they didn't want to invite her because they did not see her fitting into this whatever 10, 10, 15 year plan that they had, profit sharing and then bringing in young blood. And so if they didn't invite her because of her age, then they didn't invite us for what reason? And I went up to and I'm sort of that type of personality that I'm not afraid to walk up to the damn boss and say something to him that's going to piss him off.
Oh,
And I
geez.
went up to the office manager and I said, "What is the deal? Why did we not get invited?" "Oh, did you not get receive the email?" I go, so that response kind of seemed like idiotic to me. It's like, I didn't receive the email. What are you
Yeah.
talking about? You should have sent an email to everybody. I've been getting emails from the company all year long. How can you miss me and one person and another person that you absolutely removed? This is me, you talking to you. I didn't tell her this. And then kind of seemed odd. Like I knew the writing was on the wall when that happened, and there was other incidents that happened. Then you can begin to say, okay, I don't have a place. I don't have growth there is no growth for me in this company. And then of course I got licensed, and then they threw that money down like it was chicken feed. And I go, okay, all right, guys, you don't have to spell it out for me. It's loud and clear. I'm moving on and going somewhere else. And, you know, I went somewhere else, and that was the best race I ever had. And I worked for them for quite a while. And of course, every office has their internal
How many people
conflicts.
how many people was that firm? What was the size of the
That
firm?
one was about a close to a 20-person firm.
Well, that's like Taisuke Partners. They were, I think, around a 27 to 30 person firm, where JCJ was over 200 people. So you have to make a decision. Yeah, I hear your plight here, what you're saying. I
Mm-hmm.
can't speak on whether it was something about race or whatever, but I could tell you that 20 to 30 person firm, they're already planning who's next, and yeah, they have to make decisions for their
Mm-hmm.
firm, and there's limited growth, and they have to pick and choose who's going to grow. They can't just open it. A JCJ is the size at which there's so much growth. There's multiple offices. I mean, if you think about Gensler, any of these large firms, JCJ is not that size, but they have the ability to open it up.
Right.
I can't speak on your situation, and maybe
Yeah.
you're right. I tend to try to believe that that's not the case, especially today. But I can't speak, deep.
The
Yeah.
owners were like
Mm.
and the managers were all white folks,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
American, but
Mm.
they never kind of gave me the impression that they had any issues with us. Now I knew they had their favorites, and what is really the weirdest thing, the favorites that were up and coming to go into
Mhm.
those positions, once I got licensed, literally like a week after, those people were leaving the company.
Really?
They were just leaving the company, and
Huh.
one was going to some other country, and the other person one was leaving just because, hey, I'm going to go work with somebody else because I'm sick and tired of doing military work, and the other one was just like, hey, this is my direction that I'm heading, and bye. So the two that they were developing or nurturing to come into those positions were no longer there. And then the people that they had there that were young, I wasn't young, but the other Spanish person was young. It almost seemed like he was a shoe-in. They may have not felt like it was the appropriate person to put in. So, it is what it is. Now it's in the
Yeah.
past, but
Yeah.
if you're listening, it's like, as a boss, just know what your people bring to the table, because you may think, I think I worked for them for almost 3 years, and when I sat in front of one of the bosses that were managing the company, and I told him, this is the kind of stuff that I've done. I've done this in the past, and I can do this now. And I goes, I don't know anything about what you do, Dieter. And it's like they seem absentee. Like they know that they think they know their staff, but they really don't. And it's kind of, it happens. You get lost in the work and you get lost in the staff. So, and it's okay. I think for anybody that's out there, you have to kind of you have to be the one that you have to promote yourself. You have to be the one that.
You definitely have to promote yourself. You definitely do. But there's a fine line between promoting yourself and bragging about yourself. So you just gotta be careful with that, because honestly, anyone who starts bragging about themselves turns me off immediately. But anyone who's
Right.
promoting themselves through saying, I could take care of that for you. Hey, let me take care of that for you.
Yeah, I can help. Yes.
But now, hey, did you see what I did? But hey, let me help.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
knowing how to say it. It's like, I'm able to do this. I'm able to assist this person. I'm able to kind of, and if you're the type that's always kind of there to step up and say, hey, I'll go and do this for the team. And it's like, I think when you're doing it behind someone's back, they'll never know. But if you're doing it in front of people that you really want them to kind of see that you're doing it, and some people are really good at that social skill, and some other people aren't. Like, you could be working at your desk doing tons of work for somebody else, and that other person's getting all the credit. It happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah. Okay, so when we were in school, when we were going for our masters, I worked for a company in Gainesville, a small firm. Yeah, it was just sort of part-time small firm, and the owner, the principal, he had me do something, and we used to put him on zip drives. Remember those 100-megabyte zip drives?
Yeah, I still got one.
He would take those. I threw mine out, but he would take those to the printer and get them printed. Well, I had to do updates. I couldn't believe this. I had to do updates, and I put them on the zip drive. I handed him the zip drive. I went to school. I handed him the previous version of the building that we were working on. Oh man, I don't know. He went to the meeting. He printed them. I don't think he opened them. He opened them first time in front of the client, and he's like, okay, well, let me tell you. He goes, let me tell you what we were thinking. And he never said anything. Now, his wife ran the office. She was actually a professional as well, but I think she ended up running the office.
Mm-hmm.
She said to me, she says, yeah, that wasn't good, Dan. That wasn't good. And from that day forward, it was my first time feeling shame. And my phrase from there is, my job is to make him look good or her look good. The person I'm working for. My job isn't to make me look good. I look good when I make them look good. So my job first is to make them look good. And I hope that that's how my staff approaches things. You're here to make me look good. Right. I know it sounds it sounds sort of horrible, but why would I have gone through the effort to start my own firm and only worry? I worry about my staff, but I'm hoping my staff worries about me first here at the office, and then I will provide them with compensation for me, based on their level of making me look good. I mean, that's honestly how I hope things go, because that's how I worked for everyone else. Right. And that's sort of how I got recognition, especially at I believe at JCJ. Just I did whatever I could to make my principal or my project manager, because there's so many things we could talk about. The project manager, project architect track to everything. I was on the project architect track because at JCJ, the project manager track didn't do architecture. They just managed the job. Right. Project architect. Both can become principals, but it just depends on which way you go. But anyway, my job was to make whomever was running the meeting look good. Yeah. Whoever had to go in front of a client look good. And I think that everyone should approach it that way. In this weird self-centered kind of society we have now, this whole me, look at me, TikTok me type thing. Yeah. I think we're losing that, but I mean, it's the only way to work, the only way to make it work. Otherwise, I might as well just do this out of my basement and do it on my own, because, if someone's not going to work for me and have my best interest in mind, then I don't need to employ them.
That's true. You're absolutely
And that's a mean thing to say, but I could do everything they could do, Every aspect of architecture that needs to be done, I can do. So why would I delegate to someone who does it poorly or consistently does it poorly and then doesn't care about it? Yeah. The dynamics of the office, Dieter. We could talk all day about that stuff, man. Just
so moving from here. So you get licensed, you work for this company, and it's like, hey, I think I'm gonna go on my own and do my thing. What happened there?
Why did I go on? Wait, why did I go on my own, or like how did it? Why or how?
I think we understand why, because I think you wanted to kind of do your own thing and manage your own stuff. And so,
Yeah.
how did you? What were your steps? Like, okay, what am I gonna do?
Well, okay, that's a good point. So you and I think, took different paths to this. You just hung a shingle and said, "I'm doing this," right?
Yep.
Like you didn't buy anything. You just hung a shingle, like boom,
Yep.
Dieter Burrell, I'm
Yep.
doing it.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
pretty good, man. That's
It's gutsy.
that's gutsy. That's a hard one. That's a hard one to do, and I'm
Yeah.
proud of you for doing that. I thought about doing it that way. So one thing I didn't talk about, I'm talking about all these firms I worked for. Well, while I was in University of Florida with my bachelor's, actually prior to that, I went to community college in
I did
Connecticut.
too. I did too.
Yeah. And I met an architect in the community college who ran the department that had a firm called
Mhm.
AE Design Group. And it was a sole proprietor and same size as what I have now, pretty much. I mean, I have more staff than he did. But when I got there, he hired me while I was after community college. I came home with my bachelor's. During my bachelor's, I came home in like 96 or 97. And I asked if I could work for him for the summer. So I did. He hired me. I got paid nothing. I remember, how bad that pay was.
Right.
But he let me work for him for 3 months. And I didn't really learn much. I doubt I helped him much, honestly. I'm still getting my bachelor's. I'm home for the summer up, from Florida up in Connecticut. I don't think I helped much, but he let me, work there. And we stayed in touch. And we stayed in touch a few times, and we collaborated on a few things here and there, small little things.
Mm-hmm.
When I was at JCJ, this is between 2007 to 2014, I left there. So around 2012, I found an email, because I have all my old emails. I found an email where I don't know what happened at the firm, and I was mad. I was upset at something. And I just wrote him. I said, "Joe," right from my JCJ email, "Joe, I want to buy your firm." And he goes, "Okay, Big D, let's do it." That was just like
that.
Well, okay, understand this, especially in Connecticut, there aren't enough architects anymore. And all the architects that were here prior to COVID were older than me. They were in their 60s, etc. COVID, these guys already made the money. They didn't find anyone to buy them. They just shut down. Some just got merged with another firm. That's what's happening again at Connecticut. So then you have the Gen Xers like me and you,
Mm-hmm.
and we're still go-getters and want to own a firm. But then below us, there's nobody. So here I am. He already knows this. In 2012, this is pre-COVID, 2012, he's like looking at this and going, I could sell my firm. I didn't even know I could sell my firm. Not that he didn't know, but I mean, it's very difficult to sell an architecture firm, because what are you buying? You're buying goodwill. You're buying computers that are probably 5 years old.
Yeah.
You're buying a client list. That's the goodwill, but like, you have to make sure that you maintain those clients. So I just wrote him in 2012 and I said, let's do it. Well, we talked about it, hemmed and hawed a bit. And by 2014, we decided we're doing it. Now, we haven't talked price. We haven't talked anything. And, I have no idea. And he, I said, okay, he hires me to work for him for 2 years, from 14 to 16.
Right.
And in that time, I was to learn his company. Also in that time, he got a valuation done of his firm, and then we had to agree to a price. And let me tell you something. When I saw that price, I almost lost my mind. I looked at him and I said, I can't do this.
Oh my God.
But he had this piece of paper from a company that had like exactly what this firm is worth. And being the man that he is, it was like, once a company he paid for to do a true, honest valuation of his firm tells him this is what it's worth, there's no budging.
Right.
And it's not that there's anything wrong with that. I always said that he's fair to a fault. Like, he is fair, and fair is fair to him. You know what I mean? Like, it's just business. It's fair. It's the price.
Right.
This company says it. Here it is. I mean, what else can I do? That's the price. And it took me a while to swallow that because I didn't think it was going to be that price. And I won't disclose it here because I doubt.
No, don't.
I doubt anyone would understand when I did it. But at the same time, he's the type of guy that's like, that's what it is. I mean, he was not mean about it. He's like, I don't know. That's what the company says. I mean, what do you think, Dan? You know? And I couldn't believe it. I had to talk to my wife about it and all this stuff. I was like, oh my God. But then he and I talked and we said, well, how do we structure the deal? So I got a lawyer, he got a lawyer, we sat down together, hashed it out, put a payment plan together. There was some, he had to have a non-compete clause, the covenant. That was part of what I was buying too, is for him not to just hang a shingle elsewhere and be like, hey, I'm still here. A lot of stuff like that had to be talked about. And so when you buy a firm, what I did was I bought the assets. I didn't buy the liabilities. So you buy a firm and you say, okay, I'm not buying the business, I'm buying the assets. So I had to open a new entity. And then I got the assets. Now, the way you did it, Dieter, and the way I did it, two vastly different ways of doing it. And both are a good way of doing it. Just You have skill, you're going to open the door, get clients, and you get them. I come in, have to pay some money, already have clients I have to maintain and staff and computers and everything ready to go. I just walk in, I got a firm.
Yeah. I got to be thankful. My first, because I left in 21, summer of 21, and that half that year I had a couple of little jobs here and there, and it kept me going till December. And I had the opportunity to work with my previous employer, and they were short in staff and they needed some help. So they reached out to me and they were doing all these facility assessments, and they needed somebody to perform a code evaluation of every one of those facilities. And it was almost 200 buildings, and they needed to have code assessment done. So I said, yeah, well, I'll go ahead and do it. And it started just being like, okay, can we do like, half of them, like 50 of them, some portion of it. So I started with that. And then as they kept calling me, and because they kept thinking that they were not going to need my services, they kept asking me, hey, can you do the rest? Can you do the remaining? Can you add more to your load? But the number, it kind of was funny because the manager that I was working with, his number per unit to do the assessment got smaller and smaller and smaller the more I was doing. So, but it didn't matter. That helped a ton to get my foot comfortable. And then, the following year, from January, this is 22, this is COVID. This is COVID era. So all of a sudden I'm getting all these phone calls, and I still was not, and I haven't gone to that extent of like letting all the general contractors in my area know that I've opened my own business. And there's a few of them, and I just reach out to them, hey, is there anything you need? Because I worked in a company in Destin, Florida, and they worked a lot with one-on-one with the GCs. The GCs always get the phone call first. We don't get the phone call first. The GC gets the phone call first. It's the same thing with a civil engineer. He gets a phone call first, and then he calls us and says, hey, I got a potential client that might need your architectural services. I get some of that. And so I was lucky that way. It's like in your situation, you already had a plethora of clients, and you just had to make sure that you met at least the minimum requirements that your predecessor was doing to them and make it better.
Exactly. Now, the funny thing is, in 2014, when I got there, and 2015, I picked up other clients myself. So, and I'm glad I did that because I don't have any of the former clients anymore. And it's not because of something I did wrong. The contacts basically all retired. And so, on the client side, they all retired that used to be friends, or at least, acquaintances of of my former, the former owner of this firm. So all of my clients now are my own. It is, what are we, 2023? So from 16 to 23, I mean, we're 7 years later. A lot of what used to be there is not there anymore. I get a call every now and again from the local hospital that we used to work for, but they're they're trying to figure out, this hospital's trying to figure out their own facilities group and how they function, because they have a lot of turnover. COVID created so many people that were running facilities groups, engineering groups within large. See, I'm a facilities architect.
Mm-hmm.
I work with a facility and get continual work through a public professional services agreement. So, and that's how I like to work. I don't generally bid work, but I work on a continual basis with the same clients.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this local hospital is one of them. I still have a master professional services agreement with them, but their own facilities group doesn't really have a structure yet in place
Mm-hmm.
to properly manage the jobs. So we're working that out. I could say I still have them, but not much work comes from them because of that reason.
Yeah.
COVID caused a lot of this, Dieter, a lot of this sort of odd, like we don't know how to work. Because they start hiring people into the facilities groups and they're like, okay, well, what do you have? Like, what is your organization? What do you do?
Right.
And, some people are like, well, we used to rely on Gary. Gary used to know everything, but Gary retired. It's like, okay, well, it's not a good way to run the facility. So you run into this often now, and it's a cultural problem.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of the continual, the old guy is the person who takes in the apprentice, and then the apprentice continues the old guy's work or girl's work, whatever, or woman's work.
Yeah.
That kind of passing down the torch is a way in which the United States worked from the beginning up
Mm-hmm.
until COVID. That passing of the torch ended at COVID. So we have to either bring it back or come up with. We're all reinventing ourselves through Zoom. We're all reinventing how we work, and we're reinventing our entire society. I could go all day on this one, but just think about it. You work, to you, the knowledge to you. You gain position of authority. You then pass that off to someone else, and you have this succession plan. Every single company from the beginning of time and in the United States until COVID, that was the way it worked.
Right.
That has died.
That's pretty sad.
It's weird. I laugh at it because I don't know what else to do. It's an odd. Now someone will probably hear me say this. Dan's crazy. No, I see it. I'm sure some facilities, some businesses still work that way. But the turnover that occurred from the baby boomers that just said, I'm done.
Yeah.
A lot of knowledge was lost. We had a brain drain at COVID. So
yeah, I think a lot of I think COVID did also something to some of us, and somebody said it's like, oh, it's your middle life crisis. I go, is it was it really? Because I was 51 when I left, the summer of the company, and I kind of said, you know what, I think I want to do something on my own that can help me spend more time with my kids. And, I would think, my kids now that are older, it's like, they don't want to spend time with me anymore. But, it's like this whole summer, last summer, I spent it, at home with the kids, and we did stuff. We went places, we went to the beach. This summer, I told myself I'm going to spend more time with the kids. So I was dragging them out of the house. These kids are more like indoor kids. And I go, what is wrong with you guys? Why don't you guys want to get on a bicycle and go to the park or go outside, throw the frisbee, kick the ball, go to the beach? Hey, Dad, let's go to the beach. I don't get none of that. Like, my daughter wants to go out and hang out with her friends. My son wants to kind of just mope around the house and just kind of watch videos and play video games and stuff like that. So two totally different kids. I was thinking I was going to get to spend more time with them and do more stuff. I've actually have to force them. So I was telling myself, I think COVID in my head was telling me we don't have as much time as we really thought we did.
Exactly.
Watching all these people getting sick,
and
dying, and then so I felt my mortality. Like I go, oh man, it's like I need to think about what I want, where I want to spend my time doing. Do I want to spend my time sitting in an office with a bunch of strangers where they tell me that they're my friend in some cases, or that they are just amicable, but they really don't have my best interests at heart. And a lot of times I felt that's how you were always kind of always this there was just always this combative nature. Like some people just arm's length, and you've heard that term, arm's length. Um, and I honestly thought I always go in with that approach. It's like, hey, I want to play in the role of the architect. This was even before became an architect. I always wanted to make sure that my team was taken care of before I was. So whoever was helping me, I wanted to make sure that you had what you need to make sure your job was being done right. And I didn't know that I just had a natural tendency of a manager. I took some managerial classes, but I think in your case, you may have kind of encountered that same thing where you had that nurturing ability to kind of have people. You wanted to take care of those people, and you had a particular way of kind of managing people, and people could tell that Dan was a certain style, and he would be so successful as a leader because he knew how to take care of his staff.
So I appreciate that. I think that I'm hoping that's the case. My style's weird. I'm I just say what I say. I mean what I mean. I treat my staff like, because they are my friends, I treat them like my friends. That's it. They're my friends, and so we work together. We have a common goal. But someone has to lead eventually. You can't just. Right. Someone has to say, "Wait, where are we with this job? Like, why haven't we put that out yet?" You go over, you talk to them, like, tell me what's going on, tell me where you're at, and how can I help? You just figure it out. It's like if you hire someone to manage a job, but you're saying, well, how come that set hasn't gone out yet? I thought it was supposed to go out yesterday. You say, what happened here? Oh, well, we had to do this, or there was a change of documents. You start finding out things like what happened the day before when you check in. You're like, I thought we were done. Well, the client called and, wanted to make a change. So it's nice to have that interaction, but I always have to be on top of things. That's sort of what I'm saying, is you have to be on top of things, because as a leader, you can't just let things slip. Or if they slip, there's better be a reason why they're slipping. Today, your clients are expecting fast turnaround, fast. Now, I wish it wasn't that way. I wish we, as architects, said this is how long it'll take, and this is what it will take, and that's it. But when you get someone who says, "Listen, you have 8 weeks to finish those CDs from zero,"
that's tough.
I go, 8 weeks for that job? Okay, you're going to get 8 weeks worth of drawings. I mean, what do you want me to say?
Right.
It's like that picture of the horse where the guy, it's so meticulous, the head of the horse, and it's like, no, you have to go faster. You get to the end, it's like a stick figure of two legs and a bushy tail. It's like, I mean, you're going to get what you're going to get. I think that COVID, God, I could talk all day about this. COVID is weird. Not only do I think we have a brain drain, but I want to go back to what you said. Where should I be spending my time? Look at people, whether some people believe the numbers were inflated or not, or in terms of death, people died during COVID. There was a virus that was released in some way, shape, or form onto the world, and people died. And so, first off, you have the baby boomers that were old enough to retire, probably have just Social Security alone, they were fine. They probably said, I'm just going to live within my means on that little Social Security plus whatever retirement I put away. I'm done. So you lost them. People our age, Dieter, mid 40s to 50s, we're starting to think, well, we have kids, and why should I go through this effort when no one even cares? And my kids are growing up, and I'm not experiencing them. Then you have the young ones saying, I don't even want to live that life that those people live. I don't want to go to the office for 60 hours a week. I want to work from home.
Yeah. Well, see what happened with COVID, what it created. It created all these people that are staying at home.
I know.
And now they don't want to go back to the office.
But businesses have found, and there's a lot of discussion in the business world about how unproductive home is. Maybe some jobs, sure, you can work from home. There's some that you could do just as effectively. Sales.
Yeah.
Maybe HR. Some of the general admin. Bookkeeping, maybe. But architecture is a team sport, my friend. We all have to be in the same room. I don't know.
I've been realizing when I work with some of the interns and drafts people,
Yeah.
I tell them, it's like, do as much as you can on the work, and I always give them like an example. It's like, this is what I've done, and on some of these residential jobs, it literally is like just repeat, 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 rinse,
Yeah,
repeat, rinse,
man.
and repeat. And I tell them, it's like, just grab everything that's here, spend a certain amount of hours on it, and then once you hit 10 hours, get back with me, and then get back with me with 20 questions. And I used to do the same kind of sort of exercise with people in the office. It's like, I don't want you to come over here and ask me like every 5 seconds, hey, what do I do with this? Write that question. And there was one senior draftsman one time, and he did that. And I go, hey, I got 20 questions for you. And I go, where are we at? And he showed me the drawings. I go, there's like a lot of work, but there's a lot of questions and a lot of these details. And I go, okay, great. Because that's when he did that to me, and I go, man, this is ingenious. This is the way every one of these interns needs to operate, because I would always get these questions like, hey, what do we do with this? I go, this is what you do, and then leaves. An hour later, hey, what do we do with that? And I go, and I didn't know how to manage that till this senior draftsman showed me that way he was doing it. I go, oh, we need to do that from now on. There's no way I could be answering questions. You're going to stop me from doing my work. You're stopping me from
exactly.
whatever I'm doing. You need to go sit down, 20 questions, or 10 questions, before the submittal or whatever it is, or I'll come running over. Because I've actually had people where they've done work, and then they bring me the drawing, and I look at the drawing, and I go, did you do all the markups? He goes, yeah, I highlighted them. And I go, because I'm looking at this printout, and it looks like half the markups haven't been done, and then there's more like errors. There's some other like section cuts because we use Revit. Section cuts floating in like MySpace, and you're not checking the work. So that happened for like 3 or 4 days, and I said to him, you know what, give me the packet of drawings that you have, and see if somebody else needs you, because I'll handle this at night.
Yeah, I've done some of that myself, the kind of all-nighter to fix things. I think my staff is to a point where I don't have to do that anymore. But I feel you on that, man. I know what you mean by that. It happens.
And it's a trust, because I trust you to go handle it, and then I keep getting like, and you said it in the previous podcast. It's like, yeah, I can't afford 5 times to kind of be following up on somebody that can't get stuff done. But it comes to a point where it's like, dude, if I had to tell you like 5 times, give me the set of drawings, we're finished. You're just a staff person in the office that's helping all the other architects. Go find somebody else, because I'll just let the staff, the owner know that I am done working with you.
Right.
Yeah. And
well, that goes back to the, your job is to make the next person look good. And if you're not doing that, then why bother? The thing is, our society has changed so much, Peter, from what I thought it would be to what it is today. And, it was boiling up before COVID, but COVID released this sort of different way of doing work, different way of thinking. The me attitude, me, look at me. That's something that's always been there, but it is amplified right now. It's social media. Okay. There were people that were off for 2 years, Peter. They were just hanging out. And if they did work, it was like, oh, I checked in and I checked my emails. It's like, there were people that did nothing for at least a year, if not 2. And now you're going to tell them to, go back to work? I don't know.
Yeah. It's and then of course, we have to deal with, issues with family and issues with, kids. And, I would always tell the people in the office, so listen, guys, we are in the same team. And when things get combative in an office, or demanding or demeaning, or, you belittle people, listen, you're not helping anyone, anything at all. You got to think of it as, we're all inside this building because our goal is to make sure that we do a good job. And the job that's being done, if it's being done poorly by certain people, you're not to ridicule them. That's not your job.
Oh, no.
Your job is to prop them and teach them to a certain point. And again, we go back to the five error rule.
Yeah.
It's
5
like
years.
there comes a point, my friend, you are not meant to practice architecture. You're not meant to do this kind of work. Because if I have to correct you 5 times, my God, I just went 2 times
Yeah.
further than.
Let me ask you this. What do you think about the architect as, the single architect visionary versus consensus architecture? And I don't mean there's always a group of people that work on a set of drawings. That's not what I mean by like a team effort. That's a team effort, and that's vitally important. But the design. So the single architect, the sole person that comes up with the design, or the consensus design. And I'm talking big picture, because you always have input from even right down to the drafter on details.
Yeah. You have. I'm gonna do it the simple. I'm gonna give you the simple answer, because when you work for a big conglomerate company, I was being told, go talk to John. John's the a specialist, the detail specialist for curtain wall systems and da 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 da.
Yeah.
And I go, holy shit! I didn't know we have one. I don't know anything about curtain walls because I'm fresh off the damn boat. Coming out of college. And it's
Right.
like, I know bathroom toilets, this and that, but I don't know what a curtain wall system is. And you know what? I'll be honest. Even now, a few years ago, like I talked to somebody that was doing a curtain wall, and he shows me the detail that he sketches out, and I'm looking at the way he drew the curtain wall, and I go, that, and I'm staring at him, an older architect. But you're showing the glass on the inside of the building. That's not how a curtain wall system works. And he looks at it, he goes, no, it's right. And I go, okay, I'm going to step away from that.
Well, I don't mean the person who details the curtain wall. I mean the person who actually said there will be curtain wall there. This form will look this way. I want these materials. I want these sight lines. And that's what I mean. Like the person, the generator of the full package, not necessarily how to put it together.
Yeah, there has to be one person. You can't have like consensus. Now, if you're the one person that says, hey, the budget can afford to have curtain wall systems. There's a reason too. You're in a high rise. You're not putting storefront in a high rise.
Right.
Curtain wall systems.
Well, for pressure alone, you need the curtain wall system. Right?
Yeah, and you got a hospital that's on the 10th floor. You're not putting storefront systems. You're putting curtain wall systems. So there's a mechanics. There's a reason as to that's why you have one desiginer. If he doesn't, you can have bad designers. You can have a charrette. I love the charrettes in offices, because hey guys, I got a potential project. They want to do an addition and to this whatever building it is, and I came up with this design. Obviously, for medical facilities, there really isn't that much flexibility, because they already have a design. You're gonna
they already have a standards package that you're going to have to adhere to. Yeah,
exactly. But when you have like new buildings or new additions and stuff like that, or I don't know if you chase any like university work. Do you chase that kind of stuff?
Well, I work for a university in New Haven, but that university, I'm not mentioning a name because I'm not supposed to mention
no, don't. Yeah.
But that, if I say university in New Haven, it's pretty easy to figure out which one. That when they're putting up a building, that is a well-renowned international or at least national architect. When they're doing interior renovations, well, that's when I come in. Any kind of tenant fit outs, kind of the nuts and bolts of the work, the kind of the technical aspect of the work within the interior. But when the building's going up, the core and shell of the building's going up, the general idea, that's a starchitect, if you will, because they are the number one university in New Haven. So just like the number one university in Cambridge, they are using a starchitect. They're not just using me to give them a building.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But at the same time, I agree with you that you should have the architect. I can't. There is this idea to push that consensus design works. I don't even know what consensus design is. When you have consensus design, everyone is always, I believe, removing some of the best parts of the design to meet someone else's idea, some other architects like concept. And so you keep kind of degrading the good idea. Some of the best ideas are from just someone who woke up in the morning. I had a dream. I had a dream, and I'm not trying to be Martin Luther King, but I had this vision of this building, and this is what it's going to be. I know it. It works well on the site. There's this, this undeniable sight line I must have. That has to be glass.
Yeah.
You start talking, and sometimes some of the best ideas are from crazy thoughts. I love it.
It is.
You can't. I think that once you get into consensus design, everyone's afraid to say the crazy. Some of the best things come from the crazy, the crazy thought.
You're right. Actually, there is a project. I'm gonna send it to you. There is a project, Bayview Community Center, here in Pensacola. What they ended up doing, imagine a piece of paper, and we're kind of looking at it, and then you grab both ends, and then you twist it. Yeah. So the roof on this building was twisted, and we talked to the engineer, and I go, why is it that it has so much flexure? He says, you're grabbing straight lines from here to here, and then you're twisting those lines to create this roof that has sort of this, undulate. I don't know, like a flexing, roof. Yeah, but the young lady that designed that facility, she wanted to do something simple, and everybody kept telling her, it's like, oh no, you gotta have a ridge. You got to have a valley. You got to go. And then she asked the engineer, can we just twist it? And the engineer says, that's pretty easy. So she went around other people. She goes, my idea, I don't understand why my idea is so difficult. She went around all these project managers that are, their brain was like, fix it. No, it has to be a straight line with a gutter or a ridge or this and that, because they're so used to seeing this dang idea of buildings. When she has such a freedom of like, I don't know how to do it, but I like to see how it's done. So she asked people, and then went back from the engineer and spoke to the owner and said, he says it's pretty easy. And he says, well, let's put it in front of the mayor of the city, and then put your design in and put the other person. And they had like sort of like two buildings in front of the mayor of the city of Pensacola. And he says, I love your design. I don't want that. And that's like kind of like literally like smear in the, in one of the partners' face, because he's the one that came up with the other design. And it was like a rinky-dinky, looked like a little house in the prairie kind of looking thing. And it's built. I'll show you some photos. It's
show me afterward. Yeah, I like to see it.
It's phenomenal. So that goes back to like sometimes just when somebody has a great idea, I think as an architect, we got to be there to support it. If you believe that idea is going to be the gold star in the company, because again, she's thinking this is going to be great. It's going to, be fantastic for the community, blah, blah, blah. But you're also kind of thinking at the same time, it's like, I need to help. I need to help my interns. I need to help my young architects. Their vision. I love new visions. I love when they come up with contemporary designs, and it doesn't. Was it a little more expensive? Yeah, okay. There was a little more steel than your standard, light cage truss buildings. But there comes a point where it's like, if the client loves it, you got to make it work. And what happened was, in that design, we had to VE a third of the building, but the mayor was so in love with that building that he said, slice this portion. I don't care. We're building that, because he was about to get out of his term, and he wasn't coming back as mayor. So he says, we're doing this no matter what. So we cut that building. When it went and got bid, we had to cut a third of the building, and it's there now. And it was a long building. I'll send you photos. Yeah. It's a long building.
Right. So tell me about architecture in Florida. And before you tell me that, I'm going to say something quick about Connecticut. Connecticut is a state that is bankrupt of design. I don't mean bankrupt in terms of money, which probably is anyway, but bankrupt in terms of design, in terms of architecture, real architecture, right down to our residences. Everything here is cookie cutter, metal boxes. When new buildings go up, they present an owner says, I talked to this steel building company. I don't know, but it was steel building, 212 pitch or, whatever, and it's, just the draped insulation on the inside, and then we're going to fit it out. Oh, maybe I'll add some, split ground face or split face block to the bottom of it. Oh, that's good. It's a good God, man. These buildings going up in Connecticut, it's simply, I need space to do this, to generate, this work inside this building. The architecture is gone. And I'm just looking at it and I don't understand. And then when they do put something up that is supposed to be, let's call it high design, it's basically glass, some precast panel, and there's no thought to the facade. It's just flat. Everything's just flat.
Let me do something.
So tell me about Florida.
Yeah,
today's culture. I mean, I know Florida architecture, but tell me.
I'm going to show you just this is just the Panhandle. The Panhandle had a what they call the AIA award for designs in the past. I guess 3 years. They do this they do this thing every year here in the Panhandle, Northwest Florida AIA award. I'm gonna share with you, for some of you guys that are out there. I'll try to see if I can post some photos and stuff like that. But I'm gonna share with you what I just received. This is just an email from Northwest Florida AIA. And so this little building, this is happening here in Panama City. To some extent, these are the ones that are getting the award. So this is just the Panhandle. We're not even going out into Central Florida, South Florida. There you'll see more. There's a bigger stretch, depending on the budget, bigger stretch to more advanced contemporary design than you get to see here in this region. But there is sort of that every so often. I just had a guest the other day on our podcast, which will release this coming Monday. He works for general contractor. He's an architect. His name is Curtis Reed, and he says that Pensacola's growth, they have projected a $9 billion growth in the next 10 years in Pensacola. So it may not seem like a lot of money, but there's a lot of money that's going to come into Pensacola, and this is just this city. He says the growth in the Panhandle is exploding. He says he doesn't understand why, but here's something that's truly a fact, and I heard this on the news. 1,200 people move to Florida every day.
Oh, yeah.
People are living all the northern states, and they're coming down to the southern states, Texas, Florida, and all that kind of stuff. So
right.
In these series of images, these are citation awards, merit awards for some of these facilities. Now, they don't seem like crazy designs, but they do have an edge. They have a little edge. Sure. Some of these churches and some of these
but that church, excuse me, that church image, I mean, it's simple, yet it creates the modern, let's say, spire, the modern bell tower, even though there's no bell tower there. It's like, I like how they bring it to a point, add the cross to the top. Just the way they did it in a modern fashion is very nice. It's like a crescendo to the top. I like that.
I love that Gothic feel of those arches.
Yeah.
Like,
so that's a very interesting building right there.
And it's clean. It is clean. And
it doesn't have to be a bunch of parts and pieces.
No. You got something. This one looks like it's a repeat.
It is.
And then of course this one's kind
of. Well, stop right there. Stop right there at that citation, New York. Stop there. So, or Newark, not New York. Excuse me, I read it wrong. Newark. Yeah. What were you going to say about that?
Yeah. This is what you'll see a lot more. A play of materials, a play of louvering. Layering, materiality. This is when you kind of know. Like this one's a Pen Air Federal Credit Union headquarters here in Pensacola. So we know that Pen Air has deep pockets. Any banking or federal credit unions have deep pockets. These folks, they push the envelope, this particular firm. And so it looks contemporary. Look at the colors. They're just playing with colors.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
I see it. Let me ask you a question. Yeah. So first a comment, then a question. this is the way, this is where architecture is going. Folded planes, end walls with the overhang of the folded plane, an inset, a curtain wall, and then sort of the bookend of it, which would be another sort of similar shape but filtering. It's almost like the inverse of the folded plane. You have these two, playing off each other. My question is, does this feel human to you? I don't mean human isn't like a living thing. Does it feel like it is of human scale? Does it feel like it's supporting or denying humanity? It's a weird question, but I need to know your thoughts.
You're right. There is a scale factor that's lost when you do things like this. And but look at that image, and I'm gonna try to see if I can squeeze this building.
Got it. Oh, well, exactly. Well, everything, the Bauhaus, yes.
Yeah.
The Bauhaus school. You're right. There's a lot of similarities because okay. Well, this gets deeper into like society. This gets very deep into how society is functioning today. The Bauhaus period is, obviously quite modern, minimalist, and has really set the trend for today's architecture. We basically we start with Bauhaus, and we add things to it, like we need to filter some light here. Or, hey, what if I add this little, this ribbon that continues around? I'll add color to it. There is something about the architecture today that is a very, very well put together, well detailed building, the Penn Air Federal Credit Union headquarters. But does it support humanity? I mean this in saying, do you feel good about that when you see that? Will the general public feel good about this? Will they want to protect this building? Will they want to will they appreciate this in 10 years? 20 years? I mean, it's a question. I don't know if the answer is yes or no. I'm concerned with modern architecture today, not modern, but like today's. I don't mean modern architecture in the 50s, modern architecture. I mean today's architecture. I'm concerned with what we're designing. It's shaping society. Is this what we want? Will this last?
Yeah, nowadays I think architects, not only here, but in a lot of different cities. I lived in Arizona for 2.5 years. Maybe a year and a half, maybe a year, 10 months, something like that. And I worked for a company out there, Architecton, it was called. If you ever get it, if anybody's listening, it's like, and they do very contemporary designs. And they play with a lot of metals in Arizona. It's so dry. You can have things. Yeah. You can oxidize metals and get have that rust, and metal won't even continue rusting after that, just because it's so dry. It's such a dry climate.
Steel.
Yeah,
there's also
exactly.
steel that doesn't.
Yeah. So you had a lot of these contemporary designers out there pushing the envelope in places like that. Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, California. The climate impacts your design. I think I saw some documentary about how the smog is increasing objects in the construction field. They're rusting faster because the toxins are getting into the metals, and they're corroding all the fasteners, and I think it had to do with bridges. All this kind of stuff is like corroding quicker, because you're always worried about the salts in the air,
right?
And that was one of those things that you have to worry about as an architect. It's like,
sure,
the material, and nobody kind of thinks about it. Like I just had a conversation with a client. It's like, hey, what should I do? Should I use a standing seam metal roof, steel, or with the galvalume, or aluminum? I go, well, are you on the coast? I go, no, but I'm next to a canal. So I go, I think you're pretty safe. You can have a roof last 20 years, 30 years, metal roof, or you can go full aluminum. But we're in Hurricane Valley. You can have it last 50 years. So again, it goes back to what's going to last the longest. And I think I was going to show you something that I came across. It was sort of like let me see. Hold on a second. It was called the Taipei Performing Arts Center. Uh, it was done by Coop Himmelblau.
Okay.
And I'm going to just show you the image because some of you guys can look this up when you're at home listening to the podcast, if you're driving. But when you said, does this talk to the people in the city?
Mm.
And then you see these guys when they do things like this, and
Mm-hmm.
you have people that are, and I know
Mm-hmm.
this is Taiwan.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah.
Taiwan, and so you have this building. It's got this box, and then you have shoved a circle, a sphere into it.
The Taipei Performing Arts Center is what we're speaking of. Yes.
Yeah, and it's like great. As an intern architect or a student at the university,
Yes. Yes.
you could look at it and say, "Oh, this is amazing! I love it." And then teachers are boasting about it, and it's like,
Right.
but when you look at it as a human person that has to drive downtown, and if you look at it, it's a sea of concrete underneath this thing.
Oh my
And
God.
we're always worried about the heat load
Right. Heat island effect. The heat
yeah,
island effect is
you
real.
know.
And it's like just
When I
concrete.
saw this, I saw all this concrete down below. I go, why wouldn't you make some of that grassy area?
It
It's
looks like
the
they got
only area.
a green roof. Wow.
Yeah, that's it.
Which
Who
is
the hell's going to get up there?
out of
No one's
someone.
going to get. Yeah, no one's going to get the maintenance guy to go take care of
Right.
the plants because
Right.
the irrigation
Yeah.
system
So
doesn't operate anymore.
make sure that they don't look like brown dead weeds up there. Right. I tell you, I am interested in more of what Zaha Hadid has been doing. And I know that she's passed, and
Yeah.
it's always a bad thing to have to mention that. But the work that she has produced is something that I'd like to explore more. I think that she came at this with a much different perspective, an Iraqi American, either way, Iraqi. I can't remember if she's actually become an American or not, but yeah, I mean, amazing work that she has produced. It's much different, and although it's a much more fluid design, um, it really pushes the envelope of how to move a form through a landscape. I think that's more human. I think that the fluid design is a much more human than the boxy. We're going to add 15 layers of filtering and bolted, like you were talking about, bolted connections everywhere. I mean, how much more fabrication can we go through with some of these? Where, you know, sticking with a material for a skin, or two materials, or three maybe. But when you have like 13 different materials, it's like a box of chocolates. Like, there's a building in New Haven. I don't even know. It's just I think the skin on one facade has like 7 different materials. Like, okay, we're going. It's too much. I just, something about her work is just amazing.
Yeah, it's a sad shame that she did pass away.
I know I'm looking quickly because I felt that. Oh, she's Iraqi British. There you go.
British.
Iraqi
Gotcha.
British. So I guess she never became an American. She became a British citizen.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder, and this is just me, when you have people that have very deep pockets, it's almost like artists. You may be not very well known, but if somebody that's well connected and is, I want to say, filthy rich,
Yeah.
likes you and he wants to promote you, then
Oh, yes.
you become a Sahadi, you become a Rem Koolhaas, and you get
Yes.
these people to promote you, and then because I'm going back to that Performing Arts Center, and I haven't picked on any of Zaha Hadid's projects. Are they gorgeous as an architect? Yeah, but as a person in the city,
Mm.
what is that saying? Like 90% of the people that are there, what are they saying? Say, why did they have to build it that way? Why does it have to be so dang expensive to buy a unit in that apartment? There is an
Right.
apartment or building, a high rise, downtown of Miami, and it was designed by her office with this exterior
Mm.
exoskeleton that curves all the way up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And but when you hear people say, "What is the construction budget?" I just did a YouTube video on this one project here on the Panhandle.
Mm-hmm.
Their budget square foot price for building this beach resort was $1,000 a square foot. When does anyone have $1,000 a square foot to design.
I know it comes to cost. I know it comes down to cost. And maybe it wasn't worth it, Dieter. Maybe the $1,000 a square foot wasn't worth it. I don't know. But you find out if it was worth it when it stands the test of time. Do you know in New York City, the most sought after lease or rental apartment are pre-war buildings, pre-World
Really?
War II? All this new, Pencil Tower, all this stuff, everything in the meatpacking district and Soho, all these things, the new modern buildings going up. They're relatively empty. First of all, New York is collapsing, but that's a topic for another podcast. But when people do look for rent, it's the pre-war buildings they want to be in.
Wow.
People want to protect them.
Yeah.
The kind of pre-World War II buildings. Those are the ones that people want to be a part of. Why? They feel much more human. These Pencil Towers don't. I mean, who wants to be in that Pencil Tower? It's swaying the whole time.
Oh God.
I think it's look up fourth. I think it's fourth. Cynthia and I did a podcast on. I think it's 432 Park Ave. Yeah, 432 Park Ave. There's a lot of lawsuits on that one. I think. I mean, I don't want to speak out of turn. I think there was a lot of lawsuits on that. Yeah, residents sued developers for 125 million. 432
have any condominiums? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, luxury condos. Oh, because it's swaying.
Yes.
Good Lord. Get me the hell out of that building.
Right. Could you imagine? People couldn't even sleep. And then it sounds like I'm just trying to open this Architectural Digest one, but you can't get through the paywall of New York Times if you can't see that article.
Oh my God.
But oh yes, there it is. Embattled billionaire skyscraper developer sued for shoddy construction.
Holy smokes.
I wouldn't want to be in there. I wouldn't want to be in there. No.
No way.
Sometimes we get a little too crazy.
There was another one that I heard about. There was this building that's settling.
Oh yeah.
And it's leaning, and they're just waiting for it to kind of collapse because there's nothing they can do.
Okay.
And they're in litigation because they can't do anything. They can't do anything with it.
Let me read this to you. According to the board, shoddy workmanship and poor planning has led to flooding, stuck elevators, electrical explosions, and horrible and obtrusive noise and vibration caused by building sway. Even throwing garbage down the trash chute sounds like a bomb.
Oh my God.
I think J-Lo bought something there. She got her money back, I believe. There it is. While many occupants purchased properties anonymously through shell companies, known buyers, including former Flames Jennifer Lopez and Alex Rodriguez, who purchased a 4,000 square foot apartment at 432 Park in 2018 for $15.3 million.
Holy schmoly.
Of course, they only kept their 3-bedroom condo. That was a 3-bedroom condo for a year. So, listen, we pushed the envelope. Let's make sure we know what we're doing.
I mean, there's some common sense there. It's like, I can just imagine. It's like, asking my engineer, say, "Is this okay?" Yeah. We've done this. It's like
it'll stand up just fine. It might just sway a little. I remember being in undergrad, and we went to the World Trade Center, and me and a few of my friends in undergrad, we were up in window of the world, and you look out the window and you could see yourself moving, but you never felt it. I didn't feel it when I was up there. But
that was before. That was before 9/11.
Before 9/11, absolutely. Before 9, yeah. I was lucky to be able to get in that building before 9/11 because I have pictures of what it used to be. But you look out the window and you're like, we're moving, like we're swaying a little here, But you never felt it. It was dampened enough, But yeah, they move.
Yeah, and
where'd you get it? Yeah.
There's ways around that. They use hydraulic systems to kind of anti-sway the buildings.
Oh, sure.
But we're talking about another couple $1 million to be able to prevent it.
I'll put yourself in the Empire State. You're not moving. That thing's a rock. That thing's solid.
Yeah.
Built differently.
Yeah. I went to that one when we went to New York. I went to that one, and I got to go into one of the observation thingies.
Yeah. A plane did hit that one, but if the planes that hit the World Trade Center hit that one, I think it would just cut it in half. Like it wouldn't collapse. Like it was just built differently. It was built with just built differently,
Yeah, we can go into conspiracy theories next.
Oh no, yeah, we don't. Yeah, we don't. Let's not do that. All I'm saying is the
In our
Empire
next
State is solid.
podcast.
The Chrysler Building solid. These things are.
But yeah,
The
you're right.
question is, I guess, to bring it to the simple thing, the question is, are the buildings we are creating worth saving 50 years from now, or will they just be another building that's be torn down?
No, they're not. I'll be honest with you. The way we do what do they call it? Life cycle cost analysis.
Oh yes, procurement. The procurement process for this is like,
No.
These buildings are 20 years and tear them down. In early design, in my bachelor's, we went to New York in 1997, same time with the World Trade Center.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to do, the project was a new Museum of American Folk Art.
Mm.
And it was right next to the MoMA. And there was an actual site because they actually were putting the Museum of American Folk Art there. So that was our project as students, is what's our design? Anyway, you look this up. Look up the Museum of American Folk Art.
Was that your first semester in 97? Or your
No,
second
no. That was design 7. So that was my third semester. Or no, fourth semester. No. Third year, second semester. Is that what it was?
Dan, I graduated in 97.
Oh, geez.
Dan,
I graduated in 98. I graduated in 98.
It's kind of funny because you must have been there every time I would go down to the second or third year, because I was on my fourth year, and you must have been down, and then we must have seen, we must have made eye contact. Never
I was
said
like a punk kid.
Yeah, it's like, oh, those damn seniors, I'm gonna kick their ass.
Actually, I used to go to the lesser. I had a friend, Aaron, that was in design 4 when I was in design, actually grad 1, I guess. I'm sorry, but even as a design 8 and design 7, I'd go see the design 1 and 2 students. I'd like to see what they were doing. They actually gave me a lot of inspiration. It was funny that way, because once you start getting into the grind of design 7, 8, it's like, I don't know, sometimes you lost your kind of enthusiasm. So if you go to see design 1 and 2 students, you see how enthusiastic, how crazy they are. You go look at their studio, that one common studio, and they just beat the hell out of it. You're like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
It was real. I used to love going down there and seeing them. Anyway, but we went to New York and we had to do Museum of American Folk Art. Well, anyway, this building was actually built. It was actually designed and built. I think it was torn down 5 years later.
Really?
The MoMA tore it down because they wanted to expand. And they had to apologize. Was it Diller and Scafilio who designed it? I think it was. The next architect had to apologize to them. I'm sorry, we're tearing your building down.
Well, you probably don't. I don't know if you deal a lot with high rise, but there is something called a 30. It's either a 20 or a 35-year recertification program here in the state of Florida, and it's to recertify high rise buildings. And what's been happening here, and people don't know this, if you guys are listening from other states and you're planning on buying a condo here, older condos have to go through a process, and I think depending on how close you are to the beach, to the waterfront, it's either 20 years or 35 years. And I think 20 years or 25 years, you have to get a recertification by a licensed engineer, where he goes in and he inspects the building because of the collapse. I don't know if you heard of that collapse.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Some 10 or 12-story building collapsed and killed a bunch of people because of foundation issues. And it had all kinds of deficiencies. There was reports, and the association was trying to figure out what to do with these reports. And in the meantime, things were just getting better, worse and worse and worse. And no one had. They've been pushing this to be tighter, closer apart. So now there was another condo that came out in the news, and FYI, just kind of one of those conversation pieces, came in, and the association said it was going to be like $1 to $2 million to renovate the facility because they had all kinds of deficiencies. But what was the curious part of this was that the association, one of the people that was managing the association, the company that bid the job to do the work, it was like a family member.
Oh.
So there was a conflict of interest tremendously because all of a sudden the owners of the building got together and say, hey, we're going to hire another engineer and we're going to have him reassess the facility at like a third party and then have it quoted. And it came in at half the money that this other entity wanted. So there was this like big thing on the Miami Herald that, there was like conflicts of interest, possibility that the association that was managing the building, they could get fined and all this kind of stuff. Anyways, for everybody that's outside of Florida and they're buying condos is something that's we've been dealing with. Not only that, but we've been dealing with wind insurance. Wind insurance has been going up like crazy, and if you have a roof that's older than 15 years here in Florida, the insurance company won't insure you. They will not insure you unless you have the roof replaced. So
Wow.
it kind of goes back. It's like domino effect of different things. Designing for do you want to design for a 50-year building or do you want to design for a building that is just 25 years? And I used to work military, Department of Defense, and every time they did a life cycle cost analysis on, hey, should we do solar paneling for heating water or photovoltaics for electricity? Let's run a life cycle cost analysis.
Yeah.
And it never they always like got kicked out. They always got kicked out because the maintenance and the initial cost and then the maintenance for the next 25 years, it was going to outweigh the benefits, the energy savings, and everything else. So there needs to be a different approach when it comes to buildings that are energy efficient.
Yeah.
And they save on energy and consumption and all that kind of stuff. We need to take a different approach because it's not working out in reality.
Yeah, no, you're right. Hey, I just wanted to go back and correct something that I said with the Folk Art Museum.
Mm-hmm.
It went down in 12 years. New York Times article. Yeah, it was up for 12 years. In 2013, 12-year-old building at MoMA is doomed. And let's see, it says, and the Folk Museum building designed by Todd Williams and Billy Cian, their husband-wife team.
Okay.
They're famous. You know them.
Yeah.
Well, will take a dubious place in history as having one of the shortest lives of an architecturally ambitious project in Manhattan. And then later, I think Billy says this. Let me see if I can find it. She says, Ms. Hien said she and Mr. Williams, her husband, wished the Museum of American, the MoMA,
right,
Museum of Modern Art, had found a way to reuse what they designed and to realize its value. It's a building that kids study in architecture school. I find it funny because, like, yes, that was our project. What if we did something here? They study it as a kind of precedent to understand how buildings are made and to understand the kind of space it is, because it is a complex and interesting building in a very small site. Well, they tore it down in 12 years. So
wow.
That's how much money is flowing around. MoMA's like, let's get rid of it. They couldn't even connect the buildings easily. Part of the article said they couldn't connect the buildings because the floor levels were different. So even if they wanted to connect the two buildings. But going back to what you were saying about costs, cost analysis, life cycle analysis, everything we're doing is just we're bean counting. Just bean counting. Can't do that. It costs that too much. Yeah. And VE, I know we're probably wrapping up, but VE is one of the worst things. Value engineering. It used to be called VM, value management. But now we call it value engineering to make it sound even more, prestigious. All you're doing is cutting the architecture.
Remember how I told you that building for the city of Pensacola?
Yes.
We had to cut a third of it. We couldn't. We every time we put it in the spreadsheet, replace the material from brick to ephes or stucco, or we tried anything that was cosmetic. We tried everything. We could not bring down the cost, and the difference was so much that we said, we got to find a good clean spot at the building and just slice it And then we presented that, and that's what we went with. And people keep thinking it's like, think prices are going to go down because the wood went down. Materials will go down once manufacturing from all these people that are staying home from COVID and all this. Those may go down, but labor costs, people still don't want to go to work because our wonderful federal government continues to send checks out for people to stay home.
Well, I'm not getting that check. It'd be nice to see it and get a check my way.
I'm not getting a check.
Oh man, we could talk all day about VE. There was a project in Hartford, Connecticut project. It's called the Connecticut Science Center, and it was designed with, I think, an amphitheater off one side, but they didn't build it. It was by Caesar Pelle, Clark Pelle now, but it's Caesar Pelle's work. And so what they did was they just ended it with a metal panel, with insulated metal panel. Just
wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Couldn't afford that extra piece. So
yeah. Well, it's kind of we're running late here. We're past 1:30, so I know you got to get back to work, and you got clients you got to attend to. So, but I appreciate you kind of taking another, wonderful. I think it took us an hour. We've kind of been talking here for about an hour. We could probably keep
an hour and a half
days here, but but thank you, Dan. Dan from AE Design. Am I saying it right? Group?
AE Design Group. Yep.
AE Design Group out of Connecticut. If you guys need a licensed architect with experience in medical, he's your man.
Thank you very much, Dieter.
Thank you, Dan. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the T-Squared Dad's Brown Bag Podcast. Please subscribe on your favorite platform, and we will talk to you next time.